I wish I could be as up on Dying Light, the Beast, and kind of speak as passionately about that as you have. And
Really?
yeah,
I've heard good
yeah,
things about this, so I'm shocked.
I, I'm kind of a little bit torn on it, because I think in many ways it's kind of like a return to the elements of the game, or to the franchise that fans really quite loved. And it does kind of feel more of like it's picking up where the following kind of left off. I think Dying Light 2, for whatever sort of reason, didn't quite resonate with people right away. James, I remember you and I spoke an awful lot about kind of the story taking a little while to get going and the new mechanics, like taking a while to get introduced, that kind of thing. But I feel like the Beast is kind of just ignored any of the progress that Dying Light 2 made and just kind of felt more of like a continuation of what the first game had achieved and the following at the kind of almost like retconning to in many ways. That being said, I think it's still a lot of fun and the same appeal is still there, but it really doesn't feel like it's reinventing much of the formula at all. And things like the vehicles, I'm really pleased that vehicles are back in it. I think the world is really quite cool, that like the kind of European kind of old town sort of setting and the surrounds,
So like the
and it
first
kind
game.
of like mixes a bit of like a ranger park into the mix as well, like a national park into the mix too. Like it's a fun world to explore, but then it kind of gives you just like one vehicle, like vehicle type to use. Like every car you find is one of the Ranger's four-wheel drives. It's kind of about it. So it doesn't really feel terribly fleshed out or kind of progressing it all that much further, and just kind of has foregone some of the more interesting elements of two. That being said, I think like the story gets a hard rap. I think it's more than serviceable, but there's a kind of an interesting sort of compelling narrative to progress along. Even if the characters aren't particularly interesting. I should note at the point in time I'm talking to you, I am yet to kind of complete the story. I'm right near the end, but yet to have finished it off. At the moment, I think I'm sitting at like a 7.5, I would say. I think it like
The
is
meta's like
somewhere
78.
between good and great. Yeah. But I think it's the kind of game that, like, if you're a fan of Dying Light and maybe particularly if 2 didn't kind of resonate with you, you're going to pick this up and love it. And if you get your friend group together to dive into the co-op, you're going to love that as well. And I will say the co-op, like, works very seamlessly on it, and it's been great. For context, we got the codes for it quite late. So it's been good to sort of play it in a live environment and review it kind of alongside friends. I feel like that's kind of how the game is meant to be experienced in many ways. But yeah, I guess it's just not really felt like what I would expect kind of a modern Dying Light game to feel like. And I thought it would take some of the lessons from 2 and build upon those and refine those. I feel like it's just kind of ignored the existence of 2 in many ways. And I'll say bugs have been a major issue for me in the first kind of week as well. Regularly kind of encountering a bug where I would have cleared out the enemies in an area and the mission hasn't recognized that, and either one just loops on spawn and I see that, or I'm just in an empty space waiting for something that isn't going to happen. Only way to resolve that has been closing out and reopening the game. And then I kind of had what was otherwise a very interesting mission in which a character is using psychic abilities to kind of hide your presence from other zombies. It was like set up to be a really cool mission. And then I had a bug in which that ability wasn't happening. And I was getting spotted constantly and totally unable to progress the mission. And I was totally unaware as to what was going wrong until I realized someone had a status on their gameplay screen that wasn't on my screen. Again, it was fixed with a hard reset. I haven't had to wait for a patch, but it has distracted from what would have been a more enjoyable experience otherwise, I think. So it's kind of one of these reviews that I think, like, if you play this in a month from now with a lot of those fixed, I think it maybe sits nearer the 8 sort of territory. But yeah, in my mind, playing at the moment, it's nearer a 7.5. Shannon, do you think you'll jump in and play any of it though? I think you've played some of the Dying Light games in the past, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of the like vehicles and guns weren't in Dying Light 2 either, were they? But they're in
Yeah.
this. Like
I
that
think they
that
added them later, but yeah, and not more.
yeah,
Yeah.
appeals to me more than Dying Light did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe one day, but probably not, to be honest. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and like that's another thing, like diving into the weapons and the mods and stuff. Like yes, there are some cool like ranged weapons in there. The guns are pretty interesting, but like a lot of the weapon mods and stuff, it all feels kind of very familiar. I think there's just like an opportunity to kind of push it in sort of a new direction and do something new, and I just don't feel like there's a lot there.
I'm assuming anyone that enjoys these games are probably going to enjoy this, bugs aside, right?
Yeah. I think if you're content with like more of the same, and I know plenty of people will be, and they'll probably dive into this game and be much more favorable on it than I've been, like you'll be stoked. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like much of a step forward in my mind, and I was kind of hoping that it would be. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe something's to be said for them kind of going, okay, well, let's go back to the formula that we know worked and do something more like the following. And yeah, that'll be music to some people's ears. But I still think like, be it the kind of glider or like some of the base building mechanics that kind of 2 introduced, like there was an opportunity here to not necessarily rehash those, but kind of introduce something new sort of mechanically into it. Yeah, even like the mission structures and stuff, like it all just feels very familiar. So yeah, I'm a little bit down on it for that regard, but otherwise I think a lot to be had. And I've got a few friends picking it up now and eager to kind of replay it, given that I've been powering through. So I'll probably restart it and play through with them. It's enjoyable enough for that at the very least.